the collective West and the mainstream media that it owns and operates privately, mind you, they have been really keen on sowing discord among the BRICS countries throughout this process leading into the summit. And of course, the reason why they're doing this is because it is a public relations stunt meant to delegitimize the strength, the power, the influence of BRICS to the minds really of the people in the collective West, because there's nothing that the collective West can do about BRICS as a whole. That cat is out of the bag. There is no way to arrest this process. BRICS now makes up a higher percentage of GDP than G7 countries worldwide. And that is only going to continue because China, Russia, India, these countries are big. They are going to continue to grow. And also bilateral relations between all of them are set to get better despite divisions. But we have to understand the divisions. There are problems. And I had Pepe Escobar talk about the problems within the BRICS bloc. You have Brazil with a very complex political situation, which means that while Lula da Silva is a champion of multipolarity and really a people's champion as a whole, the internal situation in Brazil is difficult and lends itself to at times compromise and at times retreat. And that was true of Lula's first presidential administration. And of course, it was true of the process that led him to come to power again, where we saw him literally jailed. We had a coup against Dilma in 2015. So the process in Brazil is very hard and difficult. And then you have India, which has a rivalry with China. There's a huge anti-China political bloc in India, which has blocked, honestly, what could be one of the most important bilateral relations from really flourishing. And of course, you have their border dispute, which has had ups and downs, even in just recent years since COVID, for example. You've had times where there have been easing of relations and tensions and talks, and times where that has not been the case. So these divisions are very real, and they've been hyped up to the point that the collective West media has attempted to undermine the whole process of BRICS in these key issues. The two biggest on the agenda at the BRICS summit are: what is this discussion about a new currency going to look like? What will that process be? A BRICS-backed currency. And how about expansion, right? What about BRICS expansion? Because you have 40 plus countries now across the global south that want to join BRICS. And they want to do so because they want to jump on the economic wagon led by Russia and China, which leads to multipolarity, respect for sovereignty, and of course, increased investment. And these countries want to become wealthier. That is honestly the dream of any underdeveloped country that has the histories that Africa, Latin America, etc. have. So let's get into some of these. Let's get into some of these stories. Okay, here you had August 2nd, Modi may attend the BRICS summit online, says the media. Well, who was reporting this? The Economic Times reported this. This is a Western media mainstream outlet, citing that the Indian government is toying with the idea of Modi participating remotely, given that Russian President Vladimir Putin was basically forced to attend remotely because South Africa's Rome Statute ICC agreement, and the ICC has a warrant out for Putin's arrest as a war criminal. All geopolitics, all political, but Putin decided not to go. And so you have that, okay? So you have that development, which many saw, right, as potentially concerning. If Modi doesn't go, is he not serious? Okay. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that India might not be serious because Modi wasn't going. It's also that you had, I believe it was Reuters reporting that India may not have a firm position on BRICS expansion, that it may actually be going backwards. So Reuters said that enlarging the bloc was maybe not in its best interests. But Foreign Ministry spokesperson Adrian Bacci said that it's baseless speculation. It's simply not true. So these are the rumors that have been coming out, right? That Modi may not be coming, but according to that, Modi might not be coming, and that the Indian government, that Modi is not for BRICS expansion. So India's foreign ministry already has rejected that claim. But also, it's not true that he's going to attend remotely. He's going to attend in person. So the Prime Minister's office has shot down earlier reports that the Indian leader might participate in the meeting remotely. So Narendra Modi confirmed he will personally participate in the BRICS summit in Johannesburg, scheduled for August 22nd, 24th. The Prime Minister accepted the invitation and conveyed that he looked forward to his visit to Johannesburg to participate in the summit. The statement read. Ramaphosa, for his part, said they look forward to visiting India to attend the G20 in September. So this was during a meeting with phone call with Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, talking about their relations, etc. And this is because the Economic Times, is the reason why this had to be responded to, reported that the India government was weighing the PM attending the meeting online, given that Putin was attending the meeting online. So on and on and on, right? So here you have more and more rumor mill with India to first start off, debunked essentially. India is for BRICS expansion, and India is also going to participate directly via Modi's participation. So there you have one set of rumors, but then you also have more Reuters lies. So Reuters was really at the forefront of attempting to sow discord here. And this is all within the last several days to a week. You have Brazil setting terms for BRICS expansion. The country wants the club to grow slowly, according to Reuters, in order to maintain cohesion and economic balance. An expansion, said an anonymous Brazilian official, could transform the bloc into something else. Brazil's position has been concerned with the cohesion of the group and the preservation of our space in a group of important countries. BRICS currently includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And so, they say Russia and China has expressed support. This is an RT report. But essentially, this wasn't true either. So again, Brazil being accused, Lula being accused, the Lula government being accused of not supporting BRICS expansion wasn't true. BRICS expansion is supported by Lula, and the Associated Press reported on it. So here's what the Associated Press had to say about these reports. Brazil's Lula voiced support for more countries to join the BRICS group. So again, baseless rumors by the collective West media. So Brazilian President Lula Inácio da Silva said Wednesday that he supports more countries joining BRICS. The group will hold a summit August 22nd, 24th. Lula said, possibly in this meeting, we can already consensually decide which new countries can join BRICS. I am of the opinion that as many countries want to enter if they are in compliance with the rules we are establishing, we will accept the country's interests. So it comes after reports that Brazil has resisted expanding the group's membership. It quoted unidentified Brazilian diplomats as voicing concern that adding more nations could lessen the influence of existing members. But do you see what I'm saying about the complex situation internally with Brazil? These so-called anonymous political officials are likely the challenge that Lula has within the government that don't want to see Lula da Silva's political project, which emphasizes multipolarity as foreign policy, transpire. That is why I believe that these rumors were put in. The same goes for the anti-China bloc and the anti-multipolarity bloc within India. You do have that bloc within India's politics. We have to be honest about the fact that the political situation in India is not as favorable as we may hope for. There are conflicts, India and China, for example, that do potentially stand in the way of BRICS cooperation at a deeper level. So the Associated Press reports, though, that you have all these countries applying to join, and that Brazil supports it. Lula supports it. And so Vera said that all BRICS members are interested in making an effort to accept other countries, but parameters still need to be discussed. So that was always the position. The position was that, yes, parameters need to be discussed. It cannot just happen. You can't just say, okay, everyone's in without understanding what that means. What are the rules for compliance? How do we accept this membership? And then how do we integrate these countries so that we can expand and increase cooperation? That's what will be discussed at the summit. But of course, these baseless rumors only are meant to denigrate and delegitimize what is a massive undertaking that is about to happen. And so we're going to get more and more of this. Okay. This is going to happen more and more. We're going to get more and more baseless rumors based on the divisions within the BRICS countries. And we have to understand why that is. These countries are incredibly important, and their direction is very concerning for the collective West. Now, Russia's Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson for Russia, Russian Foreign Ministry, Russia's press, I believe he's Russia's press secretary. Dmitry Peskov, he's a spokesperson. He has poured cold water, so to speak, on the idea of a new currency. But we have to be honest. There's not just going to be a new currency floated about after the BRICS summit that's going to be ready to be put into place. That was never going to be the case. So it's not really pouring cold water. It's more about how these BRICS countries are going to come together to discuss and map out how they can become more financially sovereign through potentially an independent currency. And I am one to agree with Pepe Escobar, who came on this program to talk about this, that the efforts by Russia and China in terms of bilaterally and multilaterally to create a new currency are actually far more robust. And Russia is actually leading that effort. And so through the Eurasian Economic Union and mechanisms like that. So BRICS still has a lot of work to do. But BRICS' significance is that by talking about this and developing potentially a plan for a new currency, it has the potential to link these major economies, these huge global South economies together in a way that right now, none of the multilateral mechanisms led by China or Russia are able to do so cohesively. Of course, there's more bilateral trade happening outside of the dollar. Of course, there's infrastructure development projects that come with that. But the coordination and the ability to operate as one unit, as one entity, political entity, economic entity of the global South is still not as cohesive as it could be. And that's what will be attempted at the BRICS summit in August. But I want to now read from an interesting article, and I'm just going to zoom out a bit, actually, to talk about some of these divisions, because I think this article actually goes over it quite well. Let me see if I can get this a little bigger for you. The formatting of this website is a little challenging, but let's see if we can see. No, we can't see all the text, right? It gets cut off. All right, so it'll be a little small, but let's get to it, okay? Let's get to it because I want to. Let's see. All right. All right. So, BRICS nations forge a path towards a gold-backed currency challenging U.S. dollar dominance. And so, this was written in InfoBRICS, all right, which you should all follow. InfoBRICS follows developments within BRICS, coordinates and curates all of the content, the analysis, the journalism done on BRICS, including original articles. So Huma Sudiki says, in a significant move that signals a geopolitical shift, BRICS nations have announced plans to introduce a new currency backed by gold, presenting an alternative to the credit-based U.S. dollar. With the decision made before the upcoming BRICS summit in Johannesburg, the initiative has attracted attention of numerous countries eager to join this. So it's going to talk about India's stand. It's going to talk about the expected agenda. And this was originally reported in Financial Press Express. And so India's stand, this is important, okay? It's the only country that has not shown interest in the plans to launch a new currency. Its position on the matter is clear, as stated by External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. He emphasized earlier this month at a media interaction that there is no intention of introducing a BRICS currency and affirmed that currencies will remain with a national concern for the foreseeable future. Rather than pursuing a new currency, India aims to bolster its own national currency, the rupee, making its strength a primary objective for India's government. So here you go. See, these are the divisions that we're talking about. BRICS countries are not all united on this. He said On what we will discuss at the BRICS meeting, we have to see because there are many other issues, but there is no idea of a BRICS currency, he says. For years, countries in the global south have actively sought to reduce their reliance on the dollar, aiming to decrease vulnerability of a fluctuating single currency. So Karine Costa Vasquez, who is the executive director of the Center for Latin American and Caribbean Studies at Jindal Global University, tells Financial Express that the process gained momentum as Western sanctions were imposed on Russia. And according to Ms. Vasquez, while the introduction of a new BRICS currency faces significant challenges, these discussions reflect the bloc's commitment to exploring innovative concepts and fostering efficient policy coordination in a bid to reshape global affairs. In her opinion, the move suggests that BRICS nations are actively engaging in restructuring the international financial system, seeking greater autonomy. So that's what you, as a Latin America perspective, that's likely you've heard Lula da Silva talk about starting a new currency for South America and Latin America. And you've also heard him voice support for a new BRICS currency. So this is obviously not all agreed upon by all the members, and it's going to have to be discussed. Gold has long been considered a symbol of wealth and a store of value, and the adoption of a gold-backed currency could potentially enhance trust and confidence in a new financial system. So, there's far-reaching implications of this, and I think it's true. Finance Express, you have these financial outlets. There's a reason why this is a big deal, and it's not just because a currency will come out tomorrow. I make this point often, is that despite whatever divisions exist, the BRICS train is out of the station, and it's not stopping. And the fact that we're even talking about a BRICS currency means that there is momentum toward increased financial sovereignty, and BRICS playing an increased role in that, which has already occurred with the new development bank, now led by Dilma Rousseff, former Brazilian president. We've seen the new development bank increase its investments, increase the number of participants within it, and the ways in which those investments are used to foster and finance cooperation and infrastructure around the world. So the fact that the conversation is even happening does scare the collective West. That's why they're talking about it so much. The foundations of this are being put into place. So these, Miss Vasquez, this academic who, works for the Global University of Jindal, she says that the foundations have already been put into place. The BRICS interbank cooperation mechanism was established to streamline cross-border payments among BRICS banks using local currencies. Additionally, the BRICS nations have been working on a payment system to enable transactions within the BRICS without the need for currency conversion to the dollar. So this is all about the foundations being built, and that BRICS cryptocurrency is being discussed, aligning with the development of central bank digital currencies to enhance currency interoperability, and economic integration. Given the expressed interest in numerous countries in joining BRICS, it is probable the group will expand its de-dollarization agenda. So that's inevitable. It is inevitable that these countries, the more countries join BRICS, the more they're going to want to pursue de-dollarization. So it's going to be a critical platform. And Finance Express, which is a financial outlet, is telling us this. And that's why we're hearing more and more about divisions within BRICS. We're hearing about it because there is real fear going on. And it is a legitimate fear, I think, from the collective West. I think they have reason to be worried. And again, it's not because a currency is coming out tomorrow. It's not. They have reason to worry because BRICS is but one mechanism for the global South to wrestle away control and domination from the collective West and from the United States in particular, in the financial system, the economic system that it has led. And so from the new development bank to creating mechanisms to exchange within BRICS countries together, from maybe creating a new currency this time around, or coming up with a plan for it or not, regardless of whether that happens or not, it is important to note that these countries are growing, and their increased cooperation and strength despite divisions is actually, I believe, a strength. Oftentimes you hear criticisms of Russia, of China, of global South countries. You'll hear criticisms of their political systems, of their economic systems. you'll hear the divisions, right, be stoked and be hyped. For example, between South Africa and Russia. To be honest, that was a bad move. It showed that South Africa does have a lot of challenges to sovereignty and that it does have to toe the line of Western diktats when it is told to do so. There are moments where that occurs, but at the same time, the fact that these challenges exist and still South Africa, Brazil, etc., that these countries and even smaller and weaker countries than this, right? Bangladesh, right? You have smaller and weaker countries that have been oppressed to even far greater of a degree join or seek to join BRICS shows that the collective West has reasons to worry. The United States has reasons to worry about its hegemony when it comes to BRICS. And that includes dollar hegemony. It includes de-dollarization. If these countries continue to come together, despite the political and economic and military barriers that the West puts into place, who's to say that those barriers only become weaker and weaker and less? That's what it shows already. And so I think that's why this BRICS summit has become so important to the discourse in the collective West media whenever they reference it. That's why it becomes so vitriolic and it's all about sowing divisions, and Reuters literally planting stories talking about, oh, well, Modi's may not come, and oh, well, Brazil may not want expansion, and right, all these baseless rumors to try to make BRICS look weaker than it really is. There's a lot of reason to believe that the so-called diversity of the BRICS countries politically and even their tensions between each other could be a strength, in the sense that there's got to be somewhere something has to give. There's got to be somewhere where something has to give, right? There has to be a moment. There has to be a struggle. There has to be an event. This is how history works. History works as conflicts being resolved, as classes of nations, right? The pursuing interests, and then those interests being resolved one way or another, right? One way or another. That is really the struggle of development overall. It is our conflict with nature. It is our labor, the conflict that it comes into, right? It really is all about that. And so the collective West will have you believe that just because Russia, China, and India have disagreements, because South Africa is in a particular state, because Brazil has complexities internally, that all of that will lead to the disintegration and dismemberment and division and possible ineffectiveness of BRICS. But nothing could be further from the truth. And the reality of it is that the policies of the collective West in the last year, 2 years since the Ukraine conflict has only made BRICS stronger. And that's only going to continue. So the more that the United States tries to undermine, especially the big countries that really BRICS is led by China and Russia, the more that it tries to do that, the more that BRICS will expand, the more that BRICS will come together, the more reasons for countries like South Africa and India to put differences aside, to maybe stand up and assert a stronger position. The more that becomes possible, because the aggression, the unipolarity, the unilateral sanctions and war maneuvers and all of this, what that tells these countries is that the world will be more unstable, it will be more rife with conflict, and it will threaten the very interests overall that these countries are trying to pursue for themselves, which means necessarily that they've got to come together, they've got to do more to survive. And that is really the reality of multipolarity. That is how multipolarity in some respects happens. But I don't want to take away from, of course, the self-determination of these countries, because these countries do have political processes of their own. I talk a lot about China and Russia on this stream, but all of the countries from Iran to all these African countries, they all have political processes of their own, and they're all rife with struggle, and they're all about people seeking to resolve and deal with problems created from the outside as well as internally. And that is a historic struggle that will continue. And that is why BRICS will only strengthen, because the US, the collective West, they can't bomb their way out of this. They can't sanction their way out of this. They cannot do anything about it. They can't. They can try to plant stories, they can try to plant divisions, but the summit will go on. The results will be robust. And regardless of how significant, right, the changes are to membership, to this idea of a currency, to other matters, because BRICS has said, China, Russia, all these countries have said there are other matters to deal with, security, right, cybersecurity, economic, other economic issues, political issues like where does BRICS fit diplomatically. All of these things are going to have to be discussed, as well as the membership question and perhaps the currency question. So this is what's going on with BRICS. BRICS is being assaulted and attacked at all levels of propaganda from the collective West, and it's all being debunked quite quickly, but yet we have to expect it to continue, because there's nothing left in the arsenal of the collective West against BRICS. BRICS is the future. I say it all the time. It's why I cover it so much, is because when you have countries as big as India, as China, as Russia, when you have countries across the global South looking especially at Russia and China as legitimate partners that bring real tangible benefits to their countries, and when you look at a vision beyond all of this for true sovereignty and self-determination, as well as cooperation and solidarity, that I don't think was possible in the past because of how poor all of these countries were at the same time, right? We have to remember China and Russia were incredibly poor for a while. The Soviet Union, of course, built it up, but then it was sanctioned basically to the netherworld technologically in many ways, had to do it all on its own, and it couldn't build these relationships like Russia can now. I mean, that's just the truth. And China, the same way. China was sanctioned to a huge degree, and a technological blockade was placed upon it from 1949 to 1971. And it wasn't until the last 20 or 30 years or so where it's really been able to rapidly develop. And then India, of course, has been underdeveloped for quite some time because of British colonialism and all that transpired after that. And even today, India has a lot of work to do to catch up to China technologically and catch up worldwide, but it is a fast-growing economy as well. And so the global South looks at all of this and says, let's get there. Let's go to where you all are going. And that is something that the US and its European vassals cannot stop. That is unstoppable. And the summit not only will go on, but these rumors are these rumors are baseless, and they do nothing but serve the addled minds of people in the collective West, the ignorance and the detachment from reality, that the Western world order, Western hegemony, it's finished. It's over. The era of U.S. domination is essentially over, and BRICS is going to be a big part of that process. Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.